Hello from Dev Northwest. My name is Ross.
And my name is Louisa. And in today's webisode, we are going to dive into a topic we get a lot of questions about here in 2021, Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. Are they just a fad or are they the future? So in this video, we will give a basic introduction to cryptocurrencies in some common terms. We'll touch on different categories of cryptocurrency and what their applications are. We'll discuss how investing in stocks, bonds, and index funds differ from speculating in cryptocurrencies. We'll provide some resources on where you can learn more. But first, we're going to start with the question around where cryptocurrencies fit within your holistic financial picture. And like with all of our webisodes, this video is for educational purposes only and not intended to provide specific investment advice. Please do your own research or seek professional advice before making your investment decisions. So, a question we get all of the time in our financial foundations or fundaciones financieras classes is, hey, should I put money into Bitcoin? So, as Dev Northwest, how should we respond?
Yes, Louisa, don't we hear this all the time? Well, hey, first of all, folks, it is your money, which means it's your decisions. But I think it would be helpful to take a couple steps back before we take a couple steps forward. You could, of course, fast forward the webisode, but please just entertain me for a few minutes and I promise to get back to crypto. Okay, so when we think about the role that money plays in our lives, it has lots of different purposes. Imagine, say, a pyramid. At its foundation, it's about making a plan to manage your money, your bills, your obligations, and of course, plan for surprise expenses. That's what budgeting and creating emergency savings is all about. If you're on a tighter budget or fixed income, you may get to the point of meeting your monthly obligations and there's nothing left, and that's okay. In fact, if you have a plan where you're covering for all of your expenses, that's actually just fantastic. So the next step in the foundation, I guess we could call it the next pillar, is where you start to think about goals for the near future. That's where paying down debt, saving for goals like a car or rental deposit, or even a home or education or trips come into play. While you're working on these goals, it's also important to start thinking about goals that are further in the future, like 10-year plus goals like retirement and long-term investing. But more on that in a bit. So you're probably thinking right now, okay, Dad, yeah, I get it. But I thought we were going to talk about Bitcoin and crypto. Okay, yes, you got me. But here's the nugget. Have you ever heard the expression, don't spend what you can't afford to lose? Well, that's a good way to think about putting money in crypto. If you have a little bit of extra money to spend, great. You get to decide where to put it. Maybe a vacation, maybe Netflix or Hulu, maybe some new camping gear, or of course, maybe crypto. Just know that the stories that you hear from friends, YouTubers, TikTokers are full of outlier and uncommon examples. Don't you feel that FOMO? Of course, we all do. But if you dive in, just be prepared to either make money or lose money, but definitely pay taxes along the way. And before you dive in, definitely do your homework. We'll hit on some good resources near the end of the webisode. So in conclusion on this question, avoid putting money in crypto that you would otherwise use to cover basic needs. Also don't think of putting money in crypto as investing, because it really isn't. Think of it as having fun. Think of it as hobby money or even speculating money, that any money you put into it might evaporate, and it might not, but you're having fun along the way. Okay, with that aside, I think we're ready to dive in, Louisa. So, there's many places that we could start this, but why don't we start with some vocab? Can you define blockchain, DeFi, altcoins, and of course, what is Bitcoin?
Yes, absolutely. So let's start with blockchain. A blockchain is a digital ledger of transactions. And what makes it special is that this ledger is built and distributed across an entire network of computers so that each transaction has its recorded, distributed all across the world. And not only this, but in theory, transactions can be done instantaneously and transparently. That's a lot of mumbo jumbo. So let me give you an example. Imagine you're buying a cup of coffee, or let's go bigger actually, and imagine you're buying a home. Currently, if you buy a home, before acquiring the deed to the house, you have to go through this order, this report called a title search, and pay fees for investigating to see if there are any past liens on the property and to ensure it's free and clear. This may take weeks, involve fees, and at the end of the day, it produces a paper record, and your deed is recorded and stored at your county. And that sounds a little archaic for 2021, right? So the promise of a blockchain says this: what if you could complete this transaction using a smart contract that would eliminate the need of a title search because, well, the title record history can be easily stored on a smart contract. What if you could also store that contract across thousands or hundreds of thousands of computers, fully encrypted with tight security measures? What if you could almost eliminate fees? What if the smart contract could be completed in seconds rather than days or weeks? These are the sorts of questions that get people excited about applications of blockchain, and this is just one example. While we're still in the early days, there is the possibilities that this technology could be transformative for many industries, from real estate, healthcare, insurance, and even to elections. So Bitcoin, of course, is the most well-known cryptocurrency built on a blockchain and is the most widely held because it was the first horse in the race. There is no physical Bitcoin like the dollar or peso, but rather balances are kept on this public ledger that we call the blockchain. So if I bought a pizza in Bitcoin, the record of that transaction would be verified across a vast, decentralized, and that's the key word here, decentralized network of computers. This is where the term DeFi comes into play. So DeFi is basically just short for decentralized finance, referring to a variety of financial applications like Bitcoin that use blockchain. As well as we all know, most fiat currencies like the dollar or the peso allow just one copy of the currency or transaction, meaning it is centralized. So let's say I have a $5 bill. There's just one of them. But with Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies, the history of the transaction is, quote, decentralized across the full network of computers around the globe. So theoretically, if I buy a cup of coffee with something like Bitcoin, there is a record of that transaction throughout the world. So, of course, Bitcoin is not the only DeFi cryptocurrency. You may have heard of Ethereum, Dogecoin, but there are over 7,000 more. While what we call these altcoins, that is any cryptocurrency that is not Bitcoin. While we may have slightly different use cases than Bitcoin, there are definitely some that are serious projects and others that are full of air and could be considered scams. In the end, you really have to do your homework. So let's just quickly review the vocab we just went over. Blockchain is a digital ledger of transactions. DeFi means decentralized finance and refers to any cryptocurrency that is built on a decentralized blockchain. Altcoin are cryptocurrency besides Bitcoin, and Bitcoin, of course, is the most prominent cryptocurrency at this time in terms of its total value, also called its market cap value. It should be noted that while one Bitcoin may be worth tens of thousands of US dollars, you can buy or use Bitcoin in any amount. Are you still awake, Ross?
Oh my, I mean, I think so. I mean, yeah, that's a lot. So I'm hanging in there. But, you know, you mentioned altcoins. So outside of Bitcoin, what are the different types of cryptocurrency projects out there? And is there a way that you can kind of summarize it at a high level?
Sure, yes. And that's probably a good way to put it. So while there are so many different cryptocurrencies, the majority of all of them fall into several categories of use. Store of value, a payment coin, smart contracts, oracles, and let's not forget meme coins. First is a store of value coin. The goal of these is to hold and even increase their purchasing power over time. Whether the comparison is appropriate or not, Bitcoin is sometimes compared to a digital gold and would be best placed in this category. Next is the payment cryptos. Their goal is to replace the Western unions of the world. Let's say if someone works in the US and wants to send money home to another country, this can be expensive and take time. Payment cryptos aim to eliminate the friction in these transactions. In fact, there are some cryptocurrencies called stable coins that are pegged to a fiat currency like the dollar, meaning their value will always be the same as the dollar. So don't be surprised to see large countries like the US and China come out with their own stable coin. Third is smart contract cryptos, or sometimes called Web 3.0. So think of this type of crypto less as a currency and more of an application or a program. For example, in Web 2.0, Facebook or Amazon are not just websites, but they're applications where developers can build products on top of these companies' platforms and sell them from these centralized big tech companies. In contrast, small contract cryptos are decentralized. Ethereum, Cardano, Polkadot are three of the most well-known smart contract cryptos, are common platforms for other cryptocurrency and DeFi projects to be built on top of in a decentralized space. So are you still with me, everybody? I know that's a whole lot to go through, but we're down to two more. So let me return it back to you, Ross.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure. So I think the next one was the Oracle crypto. So this is a bit of a mind twist. Think of an Oracle as a bridge between real world data and decentralized world, crypto. So let's take a smart contract example around insurance. In the future, some insurance contracts could be settled programmatically through a smart contract blockchain, but it would still need to rely on real world data for inputs for calculating insurance pricing. That's where an Oracle cryptocurrency comes in, providing a way to get data from the real world to the decentralized smart contract. And then finally, Louisa mentioned meme coins. So you hear that, want to get rich quick, want to buy the next Bitcoin before its price skyrockets to the moon and Elon Musk mentions it. Yeah, I mean, meme coins hype their value, offer a lot of false promises, but don't have a lot of viable use cases. As Louisa said earlier, there's like over 7,000 cryptocurrencies out there. So that's why it's so important to do your homework and not just trust the videos that you see on TikTok or YouTube. Okay, well, take a deep breath. Louisa, I think we made it. That was a lot of jargon, but it's interesting to learn that cryptocurrencies do a lot more things than what simply Bitcoin does. So maybe, why don't we go to our next question?
Yeah, so great. That's all great information. And let's return to the question that we get a lot in classes. Should we invest in Bitcoin or cryptocurrencies for the long term?
Oh boy, of course you had to ask that one. And remember, we're not providing any investment advice here. So let me think about this. How do I put it? There are still a lot of questions around Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies overall. Is this the next big thing that will be the most disruptive technology in the next 10 years? Or, are we already in a price bubble that's just waiting to deflate? I have to say, your guess is as good as mine. On the one hand, many projects have matured, as have their market value. And you are seeing more real world applications today than a couple of years ago. On the other hand, prices are incredibly volatile, with sometimes daily swings of 10% plus or minus not uncommon. And we are also starting to see central governments around the world both crack down on cryptos while concurrently starting to create their own blockchains, coins based off of their own native currencies. So needless to say, if you are investing for the long run, for like a goal like retirement, there's just not a good enough argument yet to abandon focusing investing around broadly diversified index funds made up of stocks and bonds, kind of the bread and butter investing. We all know, of course, that if you had put money in Bitcoin 10 years ago, you would have done quite well, contrast that to putting money in an index fund that would have produced an annual return of around 8% over the past 100 years, plus or minus. That's quite a different time frame of consistency, right? So hindsight of 2020 and past performance is not a guarantee of what will happen in the future, but there's good reason to think that. Let me restate that. There's a good reason that at this point it's still hard to access buying Bitcoin in any of your retirement accounts. And remember what we talked about near the beginning. If you do decide to buy cryptos, the best thing is to think of it more as a discretionary or hobby money purchase than investing. And then if it does well, you'll be happy. But of course, if it plummets, you've tampered your expectations. Okay. So maybe we can, Louisa, close out today by sharing some books, podcasts, and ways for people to get started in the audience. So any thoughts?
Yeah, of course. So if you're truly interested in diving into more crypto, we recommend you start your journey more as a student learning about the projects and applications than as a speculator trying to make a quick buck. Yeah. As a couple good books to start with are The Basics of Bitcoins and Blockchains by Anthony Lewis and The Internet of Money by Andreas M. Antonopoulos. For podcast fans, both Crypto Masters and the Coin Bureau walk through the pros and cons of various DeFi and crypto projects. While the hosts are clearly pro cryptocurrency, they tend to focus more on education and don't explicitly steer people to one project versus another. So that's good to know. If you want to actually get some cryptocurrencies, it's not widely available through most banks or online brokerages yet, but you can get it through PayPal, Robinhood, or Coinbase, to name a few. In fact, several of them allow you to earn small pieces of free crypto just by using their learning services.
Well, with that, we hope this was all helpful. And of course, check out Dev Northwest channel for more financial well-being videos, or go to our website, devnw.org, to get started with one-on-one financial coaching and classes. So from Louisa and myself, stay cool and continue enjoying your summer.